Welcome to Family Health, a holistic healthcare show that aims to educate you, inform you, and uplift you on all matters health. My name is Liz, and I'll be your host for today. Now, God gave us amazing bodies, I always say that, but once in a while, we all get ill, and we're here to help you and guide you along that journey. Globally, diabetes is very common, and today we want to focus on type 2 diabetes. Out of all the different types of diabetes, type 2 accounts for 90% of all the cases. It has been on the rise, especially amongst young people, which is a cause for concern. Today, we'll be speaking to different healthcare professionals, and we just want to get more information about this, especially prevention, because it is a very expensive disease to treat, especially in Africa. Now, first of all, we're going to speak to one of our doctors, and let's hear what he has to say.
My name is Nashon Garuya, a practicing clinician at PCHQ Hospital. My area is clinical cardiology in the Department of Non-Communicable Diseases. My interest is in type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. And type 2 diabetes is one of the modifiable factors towards cardiovascular diseases. You can actually modify. So with the adoption of a healthy lifestyle, you can prevent diabetes, and for those patients with type 2 diabetes, with proper management and adopting a healthy lifestyle, you can actually manage them to acceptable blood sugar levels.
My name is Grace Mwangi. I work at Kikuyu Hospital. I am a nurse. Right now I'm working at palliative unit. So this is where you help patients with terminally and chronic illness so that they can be able to handle those conditions well to avoid more complications through quality care.
There are many common misconceptions about diabetes and its causes. What are some of them?
One is that diabetes is a disease of the West. The prevalence of diabetes as we speak is high in third world countries, and Kenya is a third world country. And also, there is also another misconception that diabetes is a disease of the rich. Actually, that's not true. As we have said, the prevalence of diabetes is actually now high in developing countries, and the majority of people in developing countries are actually not rich. There is also another misconception that diabetes is a result of eating too much sugar, but there are so many risk factors towards diabetes.
Risk factors are characteristics of conditions that increase the likelihood of developing a particular illness. What are some which are associated with diabetes?
One of them is sedentary lifestyle, which we actually talk about because with modernization and with urbanization, more so in Africa, we are actually having a lot of diabetic patients in this continent. If you have a family member who is diabetic, more so a mother, a father, or a sibling with diabetes, you stand a chance of developing diabetes, but it also depends with your lifestyle. So if your lifestyle is more sedentary, you develop a very high chance of developing type 2 diabetes.
There is the risk factor of having diabetes, especially someone who is above 35. There is also obesity, the people with a lot of weight, and there is also races, especially blacks. And if there is other condition, maybe for example like cancer, you know, the moment you're taking the medication for cancer, you know, steroids, you are at risk of getting diabetes. So there are so many risk factors, and we tell people if you're above 35, do a HbA1c so that you can be able to see whether you're likely to have it or not.
Now, insulin resistance is a word we commonly hear when doctors speak about diabetes. What exactly does it mean?
Insulin resistance means that you have insulin in your body. Your pancreas is actually producing insulin, but there are factors within your body that resist insulin action. And with increasing weight, more so with something we call central obesity. Yeah, the fat that is around this area, the visceral fat. Visceral fat actually contributes to insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is actually the reason why people develop type 2 diabetes.
Now, what are the different types of diabetes?
There are different types of diabetes, but the commonest are actually type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and gestational diabetes mellitus. But our focus today is so much on type 2 diabetes. When we talk about sugar, it's not literally the sugar that we put in tea. All the food that we consume contains sugar. With a diet that is high in sugar, more so highly refined foods, the white rice, white ugari, white chapati, all those foods actually have what we call a high glycemic index. And those foods with high glycemic index, what actually happens when you consume so much of that food, you actually end up increasing a lot of weight.
When patients are first diagnosed with diabetes, how does it affect their lives?
For example, there is this patient who had just come from home and he was just feeling thirsty, fatigued, and all of a sudden we have done our test and we've noted there is diabetes. So he comes from a family that they don't have money. So you can imagine how it is hard to manage. Diabetes is a costly disease. You'll need a lot of money. You have to go to the social worker because he or she will require some treatment. Others will be like, I just want to die because nobody will take care of me. So you have to be there for them. You have to walk the journey with them. You have to, you'll be there physically, socially, and also spiritually because there is also the other part of their faith. So you walk the journey with them. This patient is diabetic and she loves snacks. So you can imagine you're telling somebody who has been used to snacks, then, or maybe, for example, alcohol or maybe smoking, and you're telling him to stop. I don't think it's easy. There is a way we train them on how to stop maybe alcohol because you cannot tell somebody who has been taking maybe 20 bottles a day to stop. So there is that process. You have to help them to understand their condition, sit down with them, visit them even at home, because others will go home, they will not even take medication. When they come back here, there is already a mess. There is renal issues, that's why we need to do dialysis. Others, you'll find, for example, the sugars are down, they're very low, because nobody knows the condition.
Now, what symptoms do patients tend to present with in hospital that would point towards diabetes?
So this person will tell you, I'm feeling so hungry most of the times. I'm eating a lot, excessive sweat, they're sweating a lot at night. Others will come with fatigue, nausea, to an extent they feel like vomiting, and also others will have headache, others will have sores that are not healing. He or she will tell, I have this wound, it has been there for so many years and it is not healing. Others will come with symptoms like blood vision, they're not able to see. So you'll send them to the eye clinic so that they can do the examination.
The symptoms to look out for, number one is weight loss. And number two, when you have that urge to keep drinking water, a lot of thirst. Also the urge to pass urine. You visit the washrooms for frequent passing of urine. Also, general body malaise, feeling very weak. Also, some patients develop headaches, dizziness, and those are some of the common signs to look out for. So when you develop one of the signs, please visit the hospital, have your blood sugar checked, and if you have diabetes, kindly enroll yourself in a clinic for follow-up and proper management.
So what diagnostic procedure is carried out after a patient presents with diabetes symptoms?
We diagnose diabetes through various blood tests. One of them is a random blood sugar. A random blood sugar is that sugar that is done when you get into the hospital using a glucometer, the one that they take small amount of blood from your finger and they test. When you get into a hospital and they find out that you have a random blood sugar above 11.1, what we actually do, we do another test we call a HbA1c.
That is full blood count. We also do the lipid level, the thyroid levels. Then we do the urea creatinine levels so that we can check how the kidneys are, because if you don't manage diabetes well, there are so many complications that comes. For example, there is no history of diabetes. It should be 4.5 to 6, maybe 6.5. It goes beyond there, maybe like from 7, 8, 9, there is something that is there. But if it goes beyond 11, we have high blood sugar level in that person.
Diabetes is a lifestyle disease which can actually be prevented. What are some of the things one can do to ensure they do not go on to develop it?
Diabetes, it's a lifestyle disease. So this is something that can be managed by diet. We encourage someone who is diagnosed with diabetes to do exercise, and also the attitude. You know, the attitude is the first thing. How do you handle this condition the moment you have been told by the doctor there is diabetes? Also the family support group, and also eating well, you know, snacks and all that you have to avoid. But still, if there is diabetes, we still need to follow some medication from the doctor. We always tell the patient, once you wake up in the morning, before eating anything, kindly check the blood sugar. That is fasting blood sugar. And there is that range that's supposed to be there. So if it is low, what you're supposed to do, and then in the evening before eating, so that we can know how much the sugar level was. 2 times in a day. And sometimes, you know, it is not easy to be pricking every day. We tell them they can do on alternative days. The family must know the condition of the patient, how they need to handle the patient, especially if there is a caregiver. We also empower the caregiver on how to take care of the patient.
Now, as we can see, diabetes is one of those illnesses that is so closely linked to diet and lifestyle. And another shocking thing, as Dr. Noor-Hashim said, is that young people are getting diabetes more and more. So it's very important to watch your diet, watch your sugar, watch your salt. Just look after yourself, watch your weight, especially if you have a family history of diabetes, as I do, to be honest, so that you can keep it at bay and not get it at all. I'm curious to know, if you're at home and perhaps you have diabetes, or you know someone who has diabetes, what advice would you give them based on what you've learned so far? Please let us know via SMS on 20316 or WhatsApp on 0786 316 316. See you after the short break.
We are living in a lost and broken world, constantly bombarded by messages of hate and atrocities. But with God, we can overcome. Find hope and restoration on the go through life-changing shows on the Family Media app.
And then you will lose yourself and gain the world. And Jesus said, what good is it?
Get to stream Family TV and Family Radio 316 straight from your phone. Catch up on a show you missed or create video streaming playlists by saving and watching videos from our huge variety of shows at your own convenience. Download the Family Media app, available for all Android and iOS users on the Google Play Store and Apple Store respectively. Family Media, keeping Jesus on the airwaves.
Welcome back to Family Health. If you're joining us, we are talking about diabetes today. Now, before the break, we saw what diabetes is, what are some of the causes, and also how can we prevent it. Now, we are going to look at a little diagnostic procedure that's usually done at hospitals, clinics, pharmacies. I mean, you name it. Anywhere you see a healthcare sign, most of the time, if you go in and say you want a diabetic test, they can do one for you. And this time, I was the candidate. I'm not really into needles. It was sort of scary, but I'm so glad I did it because the result wasn't so bad. Have a look.
So I'm looking forward to this.
Okay.
I've not had my blood sugar checked for many years,
Okay.
to be honest.
Okay.
So I really am curious to know,
Okay.
what the figure will be.
The figure.
And then remind me, you said what is the figure? What is it's meant to be between?
4.5 to 6.5 to 7.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So I'm ready.
So here we are. Is there any risk factor in your family?
Yes.
Okay. And I said above that 5 years, you're supposed to do the checkup. Sawa. This one is not the actual one. The actual one is hemoglobin level, HB1C. That's how we get the real thing to know whether you're diabetic or not. Maybe I can go ahead. For example, this is the hospital setup. There is this patient who will come, they need to go home and they want to do the blood sugar test. So you don't have to tell them to use the gloves. Because they cannot also the budget, so but for the hospital setup we wear gloves, and also you can also do the sanitizing your hands and all that. But at home you just demonstrate how they're supposed to do and exactly the time that they're supposed to be doing the blood test. If it's 8 in the morning, it's 8 in the morning. If it's at 10 or maybe not at 10, at 6 p.m. before the dinner, they're supposed to be taking the blood sugar. What you do first, you can use by sanitizing your hands. And yeah, I can also do, that's okay. But then I'll put on my gloves. Okay, so what you do, this is the glucometer. You must have the surgical spirit, plain cotton wool, and also the glucometer. This is the glucometer. So you have to buy, if you're diabetic, if there is a family that is diabetic, we encourage them to have one at home so that you can know when it is below or when it is too high. If it is below, for example, if it's 2, we encourage you not first of all to take the medication. You first of all feed, and then maybe after 30 minutes, you can repeat the blood level, the blood sugar, so that you can be able to know whether you are going to take medication. Still, you can repeat after eating something and still come to the hospital because you don't want to find something that is happening and you don't know how to manage that. If it's still very high, there is also the way you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take your medication and then maybe after 30 minutes or an hour, you take your breakfast. Okay. So this we have the strips here. There is a way you insert. Sorry. These are the readings for you to know you're okay. And then the blood, you're going to put a sample of a small amount of blood on such strip. So I can go ahead. We also need this is the pricker. And you need a bit or some cotton wool. You have to ensure that there is some spirit on it. And then, Liz, we want to go ahead with the procedure. It's not going to be painful, just a little bit of kauchungo. So you take time, give it time. First of all, that is the thing you do. Then you have your, let me do this. You have your needle. Don't touch. The moment you touch, we contaminate. We swab, that's okay. And then it's not painful.
Are you sure?
I'm going to be gentle.
Okay.
Okay. And that is it. You just take a blood sample. And that is it. We wait for the results and then use this one to hold. 4.6. Your sugar levels are good.
I'm happy.
Continue taking care of yourself, eating right. Also doing after maybe 35 years, you can do your checkup. And also exercising. If no smoking, no cigarette. And also spreading the gospel. It's good to do this checkup because diabetes is a silent killer. You may not know until something happens. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, and I'm grateful.
Diabetes is a lifestyle disease which can actually be prevented. What are some of the things one can do to ensure they do not go on to develop it?
Prevention of diabetes, actually, number one, we talk about physical activities. You have to be physically active. For patients who are diabetic, we tell them to exercise at least 150 minutes in a week. And what we recommend is aerobic exercises, running on a treadmill walking, skipping rope, yeah, jogging, dancing, all those exercises that make you sweat. We call them aerobic exercises. Those are the ones that we actually advise. We also advise on good feeding habits, a good diet. You avoid diets with trans fats. Trans fats are those deep fries like chips, bajia, mandazi, donuts, yeah, and also foods with high calories like pizzas, sodas, soft drinks, energy drinks, and also avoiding foods that are actually highly refined, the white rice, the white ugali. We actually advise people to go so much to unrefined food, because they have a high glycemic load as opposed to a high glycemic index. A healthy diet comprises of a small portion of carbohydrates, a small portion of proteins, and a very big portion of vegetables, whereby if you take a plate that we use at home, a quarter of that should be protein, and a quarter of that should be unrefined carbohydrates, and then half of that should actually be green vegetables. Then taking a lot of water, and then avoiding taking too much fats, more so animal fat.
Mostly we tell them to reduce on carbohydrates because diabetes is a high sugar level in the body, and carbohydrates, that food is converted into glucose. When there is a lot of glucose in your body, there is a lot of issues. The pancreas will not produce enough insulin to be able to convert this glucose into glycogen. So we tell people to reduce on carbohydrates, to eat a lot of vegetables, reduce also on meat as well, and also we do a lot of water. Yes, it's like a balanced diet.
Now, what are some of the complications patients with diabetes can develop?
There are so many complications that are associated with type 2 diabetes. Actually, we call them complications from head to toe. Diabetes can actually affect your eyes, a condition we call diabetic retinopathy. Diabetes can lead to stroke. Diabetes can lead to ischemic heart diseases, heart failure, renal failure, peripheral vascular disease, amputations, and also diabetic peripheral neuropathy. Diabetic peripheral neuropathy is whereby those patients complain of numbness. Yeah, we call it in Kiswahili kuganda miguu. And some of them also feel pin-like sensation on their feet, and that leads to reduced sensation. Also, because of diabetes, like we said earlier, you can develop a condition called peripheral arterial disease, whereby there is a poor circulation of blood within the peripheries, and that leads to poor oxygenation of tissues within your lower ribs. So once you develop a wound when you have diabetes in such circumstances, it becomes very hard for that wound to heal. So how we advise the patient is that if you are living alone, you can actually use a mirror on your bed. You sit down and then put a mirror in front of you, and then look at the sole of your feet every day before you sleep. And you also check in between your toes every day, because there's a condition we call arthritis foot, fungal infection in between your toes, and that can be a source of a wound also. But if you live with someone in your house, make sure before you sleep every day, you keep your feet like that. They look at the sole of your feet, and they also look in between your toes to see whether there is any fungal infection within, in between your toes, or whether you are having any injury or a wound on the sole of your feet. And if you develop a wound and you have diabetes, please visit a hospital.
So, given the cost implications of treating diabetes, what is the future of diabetic management, particularly for low-income households in Kenya?
Currently, we have, I think, one center offering the services of insulin pump, and it is one of future in diabetes management. But if you go back to basics, because we have to start with basics, I think we should come up with a way of NHIF incorporating a package for non-communicable diseases, that is diabetes and hypertension, included, so that the patient can afford the drugs that are available in the Kenyan market, and the insulins that are available in our market, because it will go a long way in helping these patients manage their sugar. So I would say yes, the future, but we start with the basics.
So now we want to know, what are some of the things that Dr. Nahasham does to relax after a busy day at work?
My favorite way to relax is actually sitting down, watching news, watching movies, and I also like watching political shows. What I would want to accomplish is in the next 1 year is actually to own a home. One advice I would give to my younger self is the issue of time management, because time is actually very, very valuable, and if I was to go back to my younger self, I'd actually manage time very, very well. And the celebrity I would like to meet is a footballer who plays for Chelsea, Enzo Fernandez. The most interesting place I ever visited is Lord Egerton in Njoro. Yes, I actually liked the place, and I would like to go back there.
And that is it for today. That was all about diabetes. I do hope it was an informative show, and I hope that you've learned something new today. As always, my take home was that it's important to do your little diabetes test now and again, even if it's once a year. And if you do have it in your family, look after yourself. You have to be more careful. Watch your food, watch your weight, and you can actually keep it at bay. And if everything else fails, one thing I will say, God has all the answers, especially with regards to health. Do not give up. Now, I want to wish you a lovely week, and I do look forward to seeing you on our next episode right here at Family Health. See you next time.